Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melissa Caprio.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. It's Wednesday. How are you guys doing? I hope everybody is doing well. There's a lot of craziness going on in the world, so I hope we're all grounded and, we're taking care of ourselves because that's the most important thing that we can do. I have a really interesting show today. I'm really excited to talk to her. She's a psychic medium, an Akashic Record reader, Darrin, and she does so much other stuff. And we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. And she's going to be joining me here in just a few. So I wanted to say a big welcome to my regulars. Thank you so much for joining me each week. It means the world to me. If you're listening to me for the first time, I am an author. I am an artist. I'm a photographer. I have a book. It's called Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. And I talk all about manifesting in the book. And what's really cool is Alexa's going to talk to us about manifesting also, but the way she does it is different than the way that I do it. I do it using art, photography, and I have people make manifesting postcards. I photograph them. So they put their intention into it. I set it up. I put my intention into it for their manifestation and send it out, into the cosmos, into the universe. And when it shows up in their reality, I share their story. And there's 30 of those in my book. So yeah, check it out. I have a lot of exercises and fun things to do for health, for wealth, for love, all that fun stuff. So, I love talking about this, right? I love talking about putting our intentions out in the universe and being a conscious co-creator so that we can get the things that we want instead of the things that we don't want, because we're always attracting things to us, whether we realize it or not. I just wanted to let everybody know, and I just started doing this about a few weeks ago. I'm releasing like 3 to 4 minute short videos. And I talk a lot about this kind of stuff and other things that I have on my show on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And it's all because I want to put more positivity out into the world. I want us all to raise our energy, raise our vibration, and look for the good things that life is about, because it's so easy to focus on the negative. And I really want to focus on the positive. They've been a lot of fun to do. I do them with my phone, just sitting on my couch and just talking about the things I talk about on my show. So please check it out. And if you like them, let me know. Give me a like, a follow. I'd really appreciate it. All right, so let me get to my guest today, Darrin. She's a spiritual coach, a psychic medium, and a clarity catalyst dedicated to helping women shed energetic clutter and align with their life's purpose. She specializes in guiding ambitious, multi-passionate women to achieve crystal clear clarity on their soul's calling, enabling them to build profitable, soul-aligned businesses that inspire them. Through a unique blend of intuitive coaching, energetic healing, and alignment, and Akashic Record insights, Alexa empowers her clients to clear mental and energetic blocks, discover their true purpose, and cultivate trust in their intuition. She serves as a vital clarity catalyst for those feeling overwhelmed and seeking genuine soul alignment. Alexa's 3-month quantum magnetism method program integrates healing, manifesting, energetic alignment, and intuitive guidance to help clients uncover their unique soul path. By addressing our inner child wounds and our past life patterns, the programs deepen our intuitive connection and provide us unparalleled clarity. Her program transcends traditional goal setting, focused instead on achieving profound soul alignment, unlocking purpose, and fostering a life of clarity, confidence, and direction. And please go check her out. Her website is alexadarrin.com. And since we're on radio, I'm going to spell it for you. Alexa, Alexa Darrin, DARRIN.com. Welcome, Alexa. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And I love that you're doing this new quantum magnetism method program, and you're really incorporating manifesting in your work, because that's all the stuff that I obviously love and talk about all the time. But before we get into that, which we will, why don't you share a little bit about you and how you got into the kind of work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I've had many sort of lifetimes within this lifetime in terms of careers, and I was always really searching for who I was and what was the right fit. I was a high school English teacher after going to law school for a minute, and then I was a comedy writer and a filmmaker and director, and then I worked as a creative director at an advertising agency. And while I was there, that's when I had my spiritual awakening and sort of opened up my gifts and realized, this other element of who I was. And this was, I think I was like almost 40 years old. So it was a little bit later in life that I came into spirituality in this way. And for me, it was a very, I think it felt like a homecoming, but also it was a little bit of an identity crisis in trying to figure out how this fit in with the vision that I had for myself as a creative. And the Akashic Records ended up being something that gave me a lot of clarity and insight into who I am on the soul level and how all these different pieces fit together. And
Yeah.
move forward with that. Yeah. And then I lost my sister in the middle of that, my best friend. It was very sudden and tragic. So that sort of, dove into mediumship a little bit more as a part of that, to make a long story short. And then, I think also as somebody who was a very high achieving, ambitious, go-getter in my entire life, coming into spirituality, I initially struggled with things like surrender and trust and what that really meant. And then manifestation, I think I took this approach of, okay, doing it in the same way that I would approach, my to-do list. And it just didn't work out.
No,
so that's what led
it
me
doesn't.
to develop my own method that
Right.
targeted it to help them to understand what it truly means.
Oh, I love that. I'm sorry you lost your sister. I lost my sister. Actually, next week it'll be 3 years. So I understand it's not easy, and mine was basically unexpected too. So yeah, that's quite a shock to the system. So I understand. My sister was special needs. So, we've been, we had a very special kind of relationship, and it's not easy. Obviously, this. So it's not surprising to me, because I've always been into going to mediums anyway, always, my whole life since I was a kid. I just always loved that stuff. But ever since she passed, I think that I've gone more, than any other time to still have that connection with her. So I'm not surprised that that really opened up for you, but you're a psychic medium though. You can actually connect to the other side, correct? If I'm reading this right.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, did that happen did it get stronger after your sister, or did it happen after your sister, or is that something that you always had? Oh, it happened after. Oh, interesting. Well, and so can you share a little bit about that first experience? Like what that was like for you and what that looks like? Because everybody who I've had on my show, and I've had a lot of psychic mediums, they all have a connection. They all connect in different ways, which I find really fascinating. Some people see, hear, feel, it's like, it's just amazing to me how it happens.
Yeah, so for me, it works through all my different clairs. It just depends on the particular spirit that I'm communicating with. And for me, I learned how to do it. I already was my psychic gifts were opening up, and I was, connecting with the Akashic Records, and then in my records saw that I had these mediumship, kind of abilities that were dormant. I had done that in some past lives, that it was there. And so, I was sort of drawn then to developing that, because I wanted to I think I was just interested. I felt like there was something there for me to explore. I also wanted to be able to validate what I was getting from my own sister. Like if I could do it for somebody else, then that meant I wasn't making it up when it came to, my sister visiting me.
Yeah.
And so, and so my guides had suggested that I, seek out a mentor. So I found a couple different ones that then helped me to develop my gifts and kind of taught me how to connect and protect myself and all of that. So I started just diving into working with practice clients right away with those mentors.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have a friend who is a psychic medium, and she also told me like she got mentored by somebody, and she said we all have that ability, right? We just have to be able to, we just have to be open to it and allow it and then practice. It's like anything else, because I imagine, like you said, working with other clients and other people, especially if you don't know them, right? Like when you know somebody, you think to yourself, am I making that up? Is this all in my head? Because I know this person so well. But working with other people, that's pretty amazing. I want to talk about the Akashic Records. Can you share with us what that is? I know a lot of people who listen to my show do know about the Akashic Records, but a lot of people have never heard what they are before. Can you share what they are and how you interpret the Akashic Records?
Yeah, so they're just an energetic library of everything that has ever happened, like every decision that your soul has ever made. It contains your soul's blueprint. So how you were created, and I also access your manifesting blueprint. So how your soul is uniquely designed to experience its divinity, because that is what manifestation is. So how it engages in that process of creation in a soul-aligned way. And so in the Akashic Records, you can find out, it's kind of like a sort of a personality test on steroids, like what your strengths and gifts are on the soul level, but then also kind of what you have done and chosen in past lives, what has happened, also what your current life lessons are that you've chosen, things about, what you do in between lifetimes, what your intuitive gifts are, all of that is contained in the Akashic Record, in your personal Akashic Record.
It's so fascinating. So if a client comes to you and says, I want to, I guess, learn about what's in my Akashic Record, or I have a question about a certain thing in my life, like, what's your process? Like, how do you tap into somebody else's records, I guess is my question. Like, what does it look like when you're doing that kind of, and channeling? I'm just going to call it channeling because I can't think of a better word. Because you're up there, you're channeling the Akashic Records.
Definitely channeling. So when I, and you know what, there's, I think, lots of different ways of connecting with the Akashic Records. The way that I do it is I'm only using my claircognizance. Like when I'm doing mediumship or connecting with guides or angels, like I've got everything sort of gets activated in different ways. But I stay pretty methodical in the Akashic Records because I do very specific types of readings, like the soul blueprint that I'm going in to get. I have a list of questions that I'm asking to get that information. So it's really structured. And for the manifesting blueprint, it's the same thing. And then also when I'm doing what I call my quantum soul clearing, where I'm looking for all these different specific blocks and restrictions and contracts and vows, all of that from past lives. So those are sort of like the main kind of three like readings that I do that are a part of my, work with my long-term clients as well. So because of that, I like to stay very focused and I want to be really, really accurate. And so that's why I'm only using my claircognizance, and then I am validating everything after I get it with a pendulum as I'm tuned into my Akashic Record guides, and it's been attuned. But I know that some people, they're much more free-flowing than that.
No, that's really interesting. I'm trying, see, what I'm trying to do is like have a picture in my mind. So that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to picture.
Yeah.
So when you're in somebody's record, like when I imagine like somebody, like I imagine you almost opening a book and like reading what's in their record, kind of thing. Like, but is it like ideas pop in your mind? Like, maybe this will help. Can you share with a client information from a client without their personal information about an experience that somebody had while you were looking at their Akashic records, or a question that they had that you helped answer?
Can I look in their Akashic record without their personal information?
No. Like, can you share what it looks like? Like without sharing anybody's obvious personal information. Like, a client came to you and said, "Why am I always having relationship problems?" Or, "Why is my health like this in, this life?" And, and what it looks like, how some experiences some of your clients have had.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting you bring up the relationship stuff, because I just did a clearing, I think a day or two ago, that there was where my client had, basically no relationships in her entire adult life. Wow. And just never really, and had really also no desire. She said no libido, no, none of that really clicked. And I'm trying to remember the details, but I believe it was in a past life she had taken on like a vow. She'd taken on a vow that ended up, a vow of poverty. So it was a vow of poverty, which you think wouldn't be necessarily connected to your sexuality, right? But took on a vow of poverty and led to tears in her golden web, which is like the energetic membrane like around your aura that holds all the memories of your soul, and it's connected to each of the chakras as well. So when you make decisions that are not aligned with your soul, which was a vow of poverty, because the sacral chakra is connected to both wealth and manifestation, but also our sexuality. So because she was making decisions not in alignment with who she was, it led to a tear in the golden web. So not only was she experiencing financial difficulty, she was also experiencing that with romance. There was another thing I think that was going on with her heart chakra from another past life that was kind of those two things were informing that as well. And so that's the kind of thing that happened, right? We take on a vow of poverty or a vow of abstinence or a vow of suffering, and it leads us to make decisions that are out of alignment with who we are and to separate us from our divinity. And the more we make those decisions that are out of alignment with who we are, the more that we are compromising our energetic integrity, which then leads to those tears and energetic leakages that are affecting us in the present life. So it's not anything that anyone did to us. It's from choices that we made and then continue to make that eroded our energy. And then here we are in the present life with no idea why. And so that's why it can be super powerful to tap into your record and your past lives to get at the very root. Because then we just clear it out of the root. You know how to make now new decisions, and you get that energetic clean slate to move forward with, instead of, having to, spin your wheels and spend years in therapy and all of that, trying to figure out.
Because sometimes it's not about that, right? It's not about the therapy. That's interesting. I was going to say, when you were saying about her and the relationships, I'm thinking she probably took like a vow of chastity in a previous life and it like carried over or something into this life. And you said poverty. So that's interesting. So there's an energy blockage there. So then you go in and you remove that blockage. Is that what you do? You work with her energy and you remove the blockage, because you're sharing this with her. Okay. And then, that makes sense. That's why this carried over. But now what do I do? Right now I know it. Now what do I do? Okay. Like that would be that would be me. That would be me. I'd be like, okay, you told me, now what the hell do I do about it?
Yeah. So I clear it all out. Yeah. So when I'm in the record, I clear everything out, restore everything, and then present that to my client in our session. They accept that. There is a 21-day protocol, little kind of personalized thing you recite to anchor it in your subconscious. Because here's the thing about energy work that I think a lot of people miss, is that you can go get an energy healing or clearing. But if you are unaware of what has been cleared, or you do not make a conscious effort to make new choices, then you can fall back into patterns that are going to get you in the same space. It's not that it's not that all of a sudden the vow is going to come back or the tear in your golden web comes back, but it's that if you think about it like this, right? If say you come to me and you're 40 years old, and 4 lifetimes ago, this is where this started. So for 4 lifetimes plus 40 years, you have been making decisions from this place. You've been in these habits. I can clear the energy, but if you don't then like decide then to make new choices and decide to like rewire your habits, and you'll just fall back into those patterns. And so if you have an
Yeah, that makes
awareness of
sense.
what was the decision that you made, and then you can, the 21-day protocol rewires your subconscious mind to get that on board. And then I work with my clients, like in my 3-month program, this is the first session. This is what we do. Clear everything out, talk about it, create an action plan, and then that way I can support them moving forward in kind of checking in and making sure that we're establishing new habits, new ways of acting, new ways of being that are in alignment with who you are, instead of just like, okay, I've cleared it, now go off and make new decisions.
Yeah,
So
no, that makes
the
sense.
support is really important.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that makes a lot of sense, because let's say that you're having a block because of, and we'll use relationships. Maybe you made a vow, or maybe you had tumultuous relationships with certain souls because there was lessons that you needed to learn, and you have a worthiness issue, and you clear out all the old stuff, but then your worthiness issue in this life is still going on, and you don't think that you're worth it, right? You don't think that you're worth having love. You don't think you're still not going to be attracting that kind of a relationship, even though you may have cleared stuff from the past, right? Because you're living in this experience now and you don't feel you deserve it. So that makes a lot of sense, that there would be a whole protocol of working on all, the past, the present, and the future at the same time, and the spiritual and the body, right? It's like it's all of it.
Yeah. And it's much more easy to form new habits after the clearing. Like my clients always feel a lot lighter and freer, instant, increase in confidence and all of that. So you definitely feel the shift, but it's about anchoring it in. It's about really solidifying everything. And so the clearing just makes it easier to establish new habits and new ways of being.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's got. So have any of your clients like come to you with something and said, I just don't know, what is going on? Like, I've been lucky. I've had a great upbringing. I don't have any, terrible trauma in my life. It's just, but I can't in whatever area. And then you tell them something that you discovered in an Akashic record, and they're like, totally like, no way. I can't even believe that I experienced that. And they like a bell went off in their head, like they're thinking, holy cow, this like makes so much sense now.
Yeah, I mean, always, right? I think a lot of my clients, they feel like they've done a lot of things and they don't understand why they still have this issue. And then when we uncover it in the Akashic Record, it's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And they're like putting together all the pieces, and so maybe that's why I chose my parents. Maybe that's why this thing. They're then having more epiphanies and insights about the choices they made in this lifetime and the people around them and the experiences they've gone through. And so it's so empowering I think to know the reasons behind these things, and start to then realize like, okay, this is all coming together. Now I know how I can move forward and understand the people around me and my own life a lot better.
Yeah. No, that, God, I mean, I love that when people do this kind of work, and I love that more and more people are open to this kind of work instead of being so, secret. Like it was like a secret before, where people were afraid to speak up. Like when somebody would say, 50 years ago, let's say you were doing this work 50 years ago and somebody asked you what you did, you would probably be like, well, I'm a therapist. Right? Like that's it. But that's so great. And do you only work with women, or do you work with men too, or you just mostly have women?
Oh, I do work with men as well. I sort of speak to women, but I have attracted some fabulous male clients. And so, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Are more and more men opening themselves up to this kind of work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my clients right now in my 3-month program is a 70-year-old man who is, wanting to just like upgrade his entire life.
I
And
love
love
that.
it. I think it's so amazing that, and he's just like showing up so fully, just doing all the, homework, so to speak. And we're about halfway through, and he's experienced amazing shifts. And it's just, I'm just so impressed with him that he's showing up in that way. And it's so different than so many of my other clients.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I love hearing that a 70-year-old man is like, saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to really look at my own soul and my own spirit and see. That's just so great. Yeah, because you don't really hear too many, especially people, out older, over a certain age, like doing that kind of work, right? Like so many people get so stuck in their own ways that it's a detriment to them and they don't even realize that they're doing that. We all can do that. But that's really cool. Oh, good. I love hearing stuff like that. Now, we're going to be coming up to a break here in a minute. But I want to understand, is there a difference between your soul blueprint and the Akashic Records, or are they similar?
So your soul blueprint is contained within the Akashic Record.
Okay. Got that. All right. That makes sense. So your blueprint, and now your soul blueprint is your whole soul experience, or your soul blueprint in this life, or both?
So, and the soul blueprint, as I talk about it, right, like that's my approach. And I think there's probably lots of different things. I don't know that there's like a standardized, these are all, these are the 12 things that are contained in it, right? So this is my approach and what I look for. So your soul, when I do a soul blueprint reading, I'm looking, for some specific things that inform who you are on the soul level. And so this has been true for all of your lifetime.
Got it. Okay, that helps me. All right, so let's pause here. Let's take our break, and then I want to get more into that when we get back. All right, everybody, stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
Hi, I'm Melissa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on Om Times Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives. Welcome back. If you're just joining me, I have Alexa Darrin on, and she is an Akashic Record reader. She's a psychic medium, and she has this really cool 3-month program. It sounds super interesting. It's called the Quantum Magnetism Method, where she integrates healing and manifesting and energetic alignment and so much more. That's what we've been talking about. So I was thinking during the break, Alexa, when you're doing you're doing the blueprint of somebody's the records that their soul from the Akashic records. Let's say that somebody doesn't fulfill their soul's purpose in this life. What information are you getting that would happen? Like you go on, you died, you didn't fulfill your soul's purpose. You come back in the next life and you do it again. Is that how that works?
So, I mean, that's a really interesting question. And I think it brings up some misconceptions about purpose. So
Okay.
and that's because I think, seeing if someone has, not lived out their purpose in the most recent life and what they're doing now is not necessarily something that comes up. But I think a big misconception about purpose is it's like this one thing that we're supposed to figure out that we're supposed to do. And if we don't do it, we fail the test and we have to come back.
Yes.
Our purpose, everyone's purpose is the exact same. It is just to be the fullest expression of yourself. And, to remember love over fear and all of those things. But it's just to experience yourself here and to be that fullest expression. And so we can do that by understanding, who we are on the soul level. The problem is that a lot of us, we get disconnected with our authentic selves, so to speak, or who we are because of societal conditioning, the way that we were raised, different expectations, and even overthinking, right? About like, I got to figure out what's the one thing, what's my purpose. So that's, I think, why I love using the Akashic Records to help people understand their, quote, purpose, because it's just about kind of getting back to the core and the truth of who you are and honoring all those gifts and figuring out how do you want to use those gifts in a way that's going to light you up and make you feel excited and expressive. And so I think, sure, you can have some goals that, you have in life, that things you want to do, and then you get down here and things go sideways and you don't do it. But that doesn't mean that you failed any sort of test, and your soul might then decide to come back down, and try to do that again. But that's just one piece of your purpose. That's just maybe one lesson that you'd like to learn, one experience that you'd like to have. But it's not like, I didn't, fulfill my purpose.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense. So a follow-up question I have to ask, because maybe you can, you have an interesting perspective since you do tap into people's Akashic records. So let's say you didn't live to the fullest expression, and let's say that you did terrible things in this life, right? Like you hurt people, you killed people, you murdered people, you just think of any serial killer. So how does that work? And then in the instance of, is there anything about karma in the Akashic records that you have found? I imagine too many terrible, horrible people aren't coming to you for this kind of work because it just doesn't seem like that they would. But, maybe you've gotten some insight, just because of how open you are and that you're a channel that you can, you can help us with. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So karma is something that I do see and work with in the Akashic Records. And karma, it's just a result. It's just a result of the choices that we make. So you think about like choice and consequence. And so that's on kind of like the broad scale. And so there are things that are as a result of the choices that you've made, then you have attracted that energy. And this is kind of how manifestation works, right? If you make a choice from the energy of obligation, you are going to attract more obligation. So a similar mechanic is working for karma. And so when it comes to people who have done terrible things, the results of that, like you're always going to want to, like your soul is always going to seek to balance the scale. And so if you experience a life as someone who does terrible things, then you will want to then balance that out by experiencing the other side of it, by being a victim of someone who is doing terrible things, or by being someone who, maybe devotes their life to healing people. Think about like, doctors, people who are working to save lives, for instance, like say you've been responsible partly or in part for a lot of people's deaths. I've heard some stories about this. Then in like another life, you'll come back and your whole life is devoted to helping people and saving lives as a way to balance it out. So there's different ways that your soul might seek to experience to balance the scales in that way. And then
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
when you cross over, you do what is called a life review.
Yes.
And there are other spirits that are there to facilitate that life review. And in that life review, you are experiencing the pain that you have caused other people from their perspective. And so you are going, everything that you've done to someone to hurt them, you are going to experience that on the other side to see what it was like. Which is, if you think about hell, that's really my understanding of that.
Me
right?
too. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that
that's
wholeheartedly.
Sort of what I've seen.
Yeah, exactly what you described to me is what I ascribe to myself, like personally in my own beliefs. And the one thing I can't get over, and I still haven't figured out how to let that settle within me, is why would a soul come on this planet to do horrible things? That's the one thing that I haven't figured out, like, in my own journey of trying to make that make sense, I should say, why a soul would, because I do believe we choose our parents. I do believe we choose a lot of our experiences we have to go through. So maybe somewhere it's the answer is in that. I don't know. It's just too big for me to grasp, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit on something that's been, I think, the most difficult thing for me to reconcile in this work is why it is a part of our soul's journey for some of us to inflict such extreme pain on others.
Yeah.
And I don't have all the answers to any of that. I don't pretend to know everything, but one thing that I do know is that we sometimes, if you think about like instances of abuse or different things like that, when our soul has wanted to experience that for its growth, to experience what it's like to grow up within that environment, because it's going to then teach you some lessons and make you stronger in certain ways, and then go on to have another experience that your soul wants to have, or fulfill a different purpose, or make another contribution. And so that's how your soul is learning that. And so you look around in your soul family, you're like, who will be the villain in my story in this life, because I want to learn this lesson and have this experience. And so another soul will say, I will love you so much, I will be the villain in your story so that you can grow in the way that you want to grow. Now, as humans here on Earth, I mean, that's really, really hard to accept.
That's exactly what I said.
Because of how it's
that's it. No, that you use the exact words, because I said, can you imagine if you could take the human experience out of it and you just look at it from a soul to soul level, from somewhere else where eternity is your existence. So one life is like a blink, right? It just is so quick. You think, I love you so much, I'll be the villain in your story. And if you look at it like that, you're like, what? Our human brain just can't comprehend that. But our soul, I am assuming, encompasses that in a whole different level. That's the only thing that kind of like makes it make sense to me, because it's really hard. It's hard in this human body. But that's interesting. So exactly what you said to me is kind of like where my brain is already going. That helps me reconcile all of it. But when somebody wants to work with you and they want to really understand themselves better and their gifts and where their wounds are and why they're having these experiences, let's talk a little bit about what your quantum magnetism method program looks like. Like, somebody's interested who's listening and saying, I can't get my shit together, excuse my language, can't, relationships fall apart, can't hold on to money, my health is in the toilet, I'm just, I'm a good person, why is all of this? And they come to you and says, I want to do the program, the 3 months. What does that look like for that person?
Yeah, and I do also want to clarify that my program is also for people who want to go from good to great.
Of
great
course,
to fabulous,
of course.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's implied. Okay, let's obviously, you're already doing great and you want to go to the next level. Yes, of course. But a lot of people are suffering, especially right now. A lot of people are having a hard time. So what can we do?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned the manifesting blueprint and the soul blueprint and the quantum soul clearing that I do, which is all a part. I do those a single session, but mostly within my 3-month program. And so in that program, we really work on the beginning, like clearing everything that's been in the way. So whether that's past life stuff, whether that's things in your, relationships in your life, habits that you want to clear out, all of that is all about making space for the next version of you. So once we clear that out, then we can connect you with your manifesting blueprint so that you can understand how to create a life that you are super excited about, your next level, to upgrade everything, to make that quantum leap into a life that deep down that you're meant for, but there's just been stuff holding you back. And so then we align with that, and using some of my signature tools within my method to help you to embody the version of you who already has everything that you want, is living the life that you feel like you're meant to live, that's aligned with your soul gift. And then we take whatever your specific goals are and the things that you feel like maybe are getting in the way, and how you want to design that, and we calibrate to your manifesting blueprint, on a weekly basis. And it's a very much a mix of science and spirituality, of helping you to move forward towards a greater connection with your intuition, clarity. And most of my clients are entrepreneurs and ambitious people, and so the specific part about the program that's designed for that, and what really I think for me, I think makes the program really special and unlike anything else out there, is that I think I mentioned in the beginning that manifestation can really trip up high achieving, ambitious people, because surrender is such a big part of it, and surrender can be really scary for someone who is used to go. And that was me. I was just like, this is like giving up. Like, I'm just, try to go lie down. Like, what is this?
Right.
And so, and also, learning that for people who are more go-getters, you're operating in high beta brainwaves. And so when you want to manifest and when you want to access the quantum field, you got to drop into alpha. Yes. And so I have tools within my program that help you to then learn to drop into alpha. So some signature, like my signature alpha drop track that helps, that my clients listen to in the morning. I have my own signature tapping method that is meant for this specific program. It's called the quantum reality method, that supports that, to support you getting into alpha state and staying there. And so it's really kind of learning, okay, how do I use these tools that don't take a lot of time, that allow me to kind of drop in and learn to surrender and learn to embody what I am wanting to bring in, and have it be really aligned with my manifesting blueprint, and not a one-size-fits-all manifesting method, right? Because there's lots of different ways to do it, especially something that is really aligned with who you are.
Yeah. You said tapping. You mean EFT? EFT tapping?
Yeah.
Is that you did? Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought you said. Yeah. That's so interesting. It's called what? Emotional freedom technique? Is that what it stands for? EFT? The tapping?
The modern.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I've done tapping before. So, you hit on something. It's when you said that especially high overachievers, have a harder time manifesting, because there's something of the opposite of the law of attraction is the law, you have to allow, the law of allowing, right? And allowing doesn't look like what you think it's going to look like almost all of the time, right? So for overachievers who want to control everything and it has to show up a certain way, I can understand how that could be a challenge, because if you could allow it to show up in the way that it is the highest and best interest for you, it would be so much easier for your own growth. But we do kind of block a lot of that when we expect it to be a certain way, right? We say, okay, I want this, I'm doing this. Why hasn't it shown up? And meanwhile, it already has, but you weren't looking there. You were looking over here because it had to show up the way you thought it should show up, right? That happens quite a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's also like the balance is really important, right? Like the balance of the masculine and feminine energy when it comes to manifestation. Like you have to take action. You also have to make room for that surrender. And so sometimes people can fall on either end of the spectrum, and that's where you can also go a little bit wrong, I guess. Maybe that's not the correct way to phrase it. But that's where, things are not going to show up then as quickly, or, in the way that you're expecting them at all, like because you are you're in balance when it comes to action versus surrender and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when somebody works with you, do you meet on Zoom? Is it on a weekly basis? You're working just one-on-one, or is it in small groups? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's one-on-one for 12 weeks.
Okay. And through Zoom, like video, like you do
Yeah,
video
sorry,
recording?
through Zoom.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Over Zoom. Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I
Oh,
work with
okay.
clients all over the world. All over the world.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the internet, right? You don't have to be in person anymore to work with people, who resonate with you. You can do it online. No, I like that. And do you give homework and exercises for people to do every week? I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I sign up for a program, I like when I sign up and somebody's giving me exercises to do.
Yeah, my program is kind of like a hybrid of like a course and mentorship and coaching and healing. And, it's like, it's a lot of different things. And so the way that it works, there's some like, we have like a welcome week. There's like, which is sort of pre-work a little bit to get you ready for our first session. And then say we meet on Tuesday, then Wednesday morning, the new content for the next week unlocks. So there's some video lessons.
Cool.
There are some, homework. Some of it's optional. Some of it I highly recommend. And then there's also a couple different tracks that, I recommend my clients listen to daily. And so it's kind of, I like to over deliver. So there's a lot of tools that I give my clients, and I'll add in, custom things as things come up. But then, there is a sort of like basic program that we're following. And then that way, because I'm able to deliver all that content outside of our session, that way when we meet on Zoom, I'm not having to do any teaching, because you've already watched the lessons. You've already thought through some things. You're coming with questions. You're coming with what's going on for you that particular week. Maybe you want to talk about, the boundaries that you want to instill with some of your friends who are, sucking your energy. And we want to talk about that for half the session. And then we want to dive into your manifesting blueprint. And so that gives us a lot of flexibility for me to serve my clients where they are, and then also kind of have them to dive into my unique method.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. I'm one of those people that if I do a program, I want that. That's what I'm looking for. Like, I'm looking for the work. I like the homework, because if I'm investing my time and energy and money into something, right, like this, like looking for the greatest benefit, right? And so I want to do the work because I've made the commitment. Like, I feel like when you make a commitment to yourself and you're investing your time, energy, and money in something, that on its own has some kind of an energy shift for you, right? Because then you're telling the universe, I'm serious this time. I'm serious.
Oh,
I'm gonna show
absolutely.
up. Yeah.
They say when you pay attention. Yeah. And
I love that. That's a good one. I may have to borrow that. When you pay attention. That's great. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, when you invest in yourself, that's often the first conversation I have with my clients, like as they are signing up for my program, who they really want to do it, but they are scared to invest in themselves because they've never done that before. And it's like, this is the first leap of faith and the first, I think, sign to the universe that you are, that you're jumping into, that you are like deciding to choose to change your reality. You're saying, you know what, I value myself, and I am choosing to put myself first in the situation, and enter this energetic exchange, with some money on the table here. Yeah, because I believe in myself, and I'm ready to make this shift, and then the universe is going to pay that back in dividends.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. I can see that. So when you're working and you're having the Zooms, are you also tapping into your clients' spirit guides and I think I think I saw you said that you also have you do angel guides too. You can connect with, can you connect with other people's angel guides or just your own angel guides? And that's where you're getting the guidance from.
So during a session, I'm connected to my, it's my client's spiritual team. It's mostly spirit guides.
Yeah.
I can't connect with other people's guardian angels. I used to do that a lot more.
Okay.
My work has shifted a little bit. And so I primarily work with guides. Occasionally ascended masters will come in for specific clients and specific things. that want to come in to support. But during a session, I'm getting, you know, I'm seeing things and hearing things from my clients' spirit guides, like here and there, you know, as necessary. And then I usually check in with them before like a session.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Like you could be like, hey, so your spirit guide is telling me right now that you should, you know, whatever, fill in the blank. I just think that that's just like wild. I love hearing about this kind of stuff. You know, it's so my wheelhouse. Obviously, I have this show, and you're the kind of guest that I have on my show, so it's definitely in my wheelhouse. People must just get so fascinated when they're like, wow, my spirit guide said that. That's really, really cool, right?
Yeah, and it's I love when they have such creative ideas of things that I wouldn't have thought of, and I'm like, oh, I didn't do that. You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, so have you seen anything with your clients that seems to be a current theme that humanity is dealing with right now? Like, is there certain things that keep coming up that you've noticed?
So what has been really interesting is and this could just be, you know, the people that I have been attracting, but there have been so many of my clients struggling with boundaries. And I didn't realize like, that was such an issue, I think. And this is men and women. Like, so that I think for me it's something interesting, and maybe even in the spiritual realm, because we're taught to serve others and give and, you know, be a good person. And what that can end up doing is have this element of like pressure of like, I need to say yes anytime somebody asks me to help them, or I always need to show up, or I always, right? So I can be the good person. But the problem with that is that you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself first. And the healthy boundaries has been a big lesson for some of my like long-term clients, that I've seen a beautiful, amazing shift, and then seen them continue to get tested more and more as they're having better and better boundaries, and then they unlock new lessons. But it always comes with greater abundance and opportunities. You know, as they clear out old relationships that are toxic or bad, then it's like they make that they assert those boundaries, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know, they're getting then now two great relationships coming in that are super healthy. So that has been, I think, for the last year, a big theme that I wasn't expecting necessarily with this work. You know, you think about energetic boundaries and energetic hygiene, and it's like, okay, actually, a lot of my clients are having an issue saying no.
Yeah. That's funny that you said that, because I would say in the last couple of years, that's been a big a thing in my family. Boundaries.
Oh, wow.
And we've all been talking about it. Yeah. With my parents, with my my sisters. Yeah. Boundaries. Yeah. And it's not only from me coming from, I'm drawing boundaries. My sister's been drawing boundaries. My mother, for the first time, has been drawing boundaries. It's really interesting that you said boundaries to me. Yeah, that's been a big theme. That's been a big family theme. Yeah, right. So there must be something about that. Wow. Now, you just said something about energetic hygiene. Can you share what do you mean by that? Is that like where the boundaries fall under that? The energetic hygiene?
Yeah,
Is that what you meant?
Like cutting energetic cords, and if you,
okay.
heard about talking about getting in the bubble.
Yeah. And it's true. It's when you say that you're gonna do something. I was having a conversation with a friend, and she really wants to a relationship, and she's been asking for a while, and the last person, you know, came and showed up and had a lot of the same things in a different package that she's dealing with, right? Her big triggers, her big emotional wounds and everything. And she's like, well, why does that happen? I'm like, well, because the universe once is showing you where you're still at, the work that you still have to do. And are you serious? Because you said you don't want this anymore. But meanwhile, showed up in a shiny package, just looked a little different and came across in the beginning a little different, but it ended up being the same story. So are you serious? Were there red flags? And of course there were red flags. You know? So I just find that interesting. So when you're saying that your clients, sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, because we're like, okay, this is where the real work is, right?
Well, I think that like for, I'm thinking about one client in particular, or for some, like when you assert a boundary, when you say no to people who have been used to you saying yes your whole life, they're like, literally one of my clients, she like asserted boundaries with her like work partner, and her work partner, she was like, that she like thought that she was going through menopause or something. She like sent her a book on like being like, a premenopausal woman, or it's
oh my God.
A woman asserts a boundary, like there must be something wrong with her,
Oh,
and
wow.
so it's those kinds of things where people, they just push because they're used to you just saying yes, being a pushover, or going with what they're saying, and so it's a little bit jarring for the people around you, and so they've got to get on board, and so that's an opportunity for you and asserting the boundaries to be a teacher for them, and also to realize that if they're not going to respect those boundaries, do you want them as your friend, or do you want to make room for new friends that respect those boundaries?
Oh, yeah, you are 100% right. Well, thank you so much, Alexa. It was such a delight talking to you. I really enjoyed today's conversation. Guys, check her out, alexadarrin.com. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. All right, everybody. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. And I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.